Welcome back to X-Wing Quick Tips. Today we're talking about the Count Dooku crew card because it is a very popular choice to go on the fire sprays right now in the Separatist faction, and there is some missed opportunities out there that I'm noticing, and I want to make sure to give you some quick tips first so you know how the card works, and also how to both take advantage of it if you're using it and how to realize some of the potential that your enemy might have if they have him equipped on one of their ships. Count Dooku crew reads: you have one recurring force charge. Before a ship at range 0 to 2 rolls attack dice or defense dice, if all of your force are active, you may spend one force and name a result. If the roll does not contain the name result, the ship must change one die to that result. Now, when you look at that smug Count Dooku, you might think, hey, this seems like an okay ability, but in fact, it is quite powerful. Right now, a lot of people are using it on the Separatist fire spray. Now, let's look at some of the more obvious uses first. Of course, if you are attacking and you want to increase your possibility of hitting on that attack, you will call for a crit on this. It is a more likely guaranteed result than saving the force to use on a focus token. Calling a crit, you have a less of a chance of actually naturally rolling it, so you're increasing your chances of possibly changing something like a blank result to a crit result when maybe you had a focus already, and you can increase your maximum damage output potential. Of course, it also works on a critical evade roll where you, at range 0 of yourself, right, can call evade to make sure if you need one evade in a certain situation, you can go ahead and do that. So that's the most obvious use of Dooku, right? The next layer would be, if you look at the card text, it does say this affects just ships, not enemy, not friendly ships, just ships. So you can use Dooku's ability to, for instance, call a blank result on a enemy ship's attack or defense dice, and you could of course call crits or evades for your other friendly ships that are not carrying Dooku. Of course, they do have to still be within that range 0 to 2 bubble. Now let's take it to the third level, where you got to realize something, that while this does say attack and defense dice, attack and defense dice are also used in other effects in the game. Let's go ahead and cover some of those. So for instance, when you overlap an obstacle, whether that be a asteroid, debris, or gas cloud, or even when bombs are going off, any type of effect that uses a die to be rolled, you can use Count Dooku to affect that. So let's talk about defensively. Your Dooku carrier or friendly ship to a Dooku carrier goes by a thermal detonator, and that ship only has a single hull. You can just guarantee that it doesn't roll the hit. You just say, you declare Dooku, that's within range 0 to 2, that ship that you're declaring, I say blank, and the roll literally doesn't matter. But you can turn the tides as well, and if you have an enemy ship who is within range 0 to 2 of you and is about to be bombed, or it runs over an asteroid, debris, or gas cloud, and you want them to take that damage or effect, you just say, Dooku, a hit. Or a crit, if it's worse in that situation. I will tell you, Dooku is not only just a force charge, but a very powerful control piece. And especially when you have these effects that are affected by a dice roll, you can really hurt people. Now, when we take that even one step further, if you wanted to affect things like a wounded pilot crit or any other crits that are affected by rolling a dice, you can force them to actually take that effect. So it is important to note one last thing. It does have a secondary requirement. It's not just spend the force willy-nilly. You'll notice that it does require the sentence here, if all of your force are active. So this does mean if you put Count Dooku crew on a force-wielding character already, you can actually only use this effect if all of the force on that pilot are active. So for instance, if you went ahead and took Dooku crew and put it on Darth Maul, you would have to have all 4 of those force charges active because the U in this card effect is applied to the ship. Now, of course, if you put Count Dooku crew on a pilot that doesn't have force, if you have 1 force and it's active, that's all of them. So a lot of times the most efficient use and guaranteed use of Dooku is when you put it on a ship that doesn't have force already. And now for a rare return of Quick Tips quiz time. Question number 1. Can Count Dooku be used on dice rerolls? No. Per the X-Wing 2.0 rules reference, the act of rolling a dice and re-rolling the dice are different and distinct moments. So it's important to note that it only actually works on the original roll before any modification happens. True or false? Count Dooku's ability happens before the modified dice result step. This one's true. So that means that if a player has any type of dice modifiers that do happen in the modified dice result step, that these would end up happening after Count Dooku takes effect. And this last one is a knowledge check. What happens when both players have Count Dooku crew and they want to affect the same exact die roll? So this one comes down to player order. Essentially, the dice are rolled. Whoever's first player gets to affect the dice roll, if able, according to the rules on the Count Dooku crew card. And then, however the dice results are there even after being changed by the first player's Count Dooku effect, then the second one comes in, and then they can take their effect. This does mean that there's potential for the same die result to be changed twice, once by the first player and then once by the second player. So everybody out there, watch out. Dooku crew is definitely out there. If you're playing against Separatists that have crew slots, you are going to see them. Right now, as of March 2021, only 10 points. It is absolute value. And honestly, I would pay for this amount of control, maybe even up to 14, 15 points. Because here's the thing. One thing we say here on GSP all the time, and hopefully you've realized, is some of the best effects in the game are those that give you flexibility. And with the amount of dice rolling that happens in X-Wing, that is a ton of flexibility and control in a list. So let me know if you've learned anything from this video. Is there anything that I missed about Count Dooku? Put that information down below so that people can learn. And if you have suggestions for other future quick tip videos and subjects that I can do in the future, please leave them down there as well. Hopefully you learned something. We'll talk to you later. Remind you, we are live every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Gold Squadron Podcast. See you then. Gold Squadron out.